Aliens Explored is a podcast exploring famous and obscure cases of UFO sightings, alien abductions and other strange events from both a believing and a sceptical perspective whilst keeping an open mind. I'm Stu Jackson, a professional actor and amateur ufologist with a particular interest in the crop circle phenomenon. I'll be debating that otherworldly visitations are real. The truth is out there.
And I'm Neil Kelly. I'm a professional actor as well and used to work for the military as an intelligence analyst. I'll be arguing from a more doubtful point of view. I mean, it's all a bit far-fetched, isn't it?
The Aetherius Society is an international spiritual organisation dedicated to spreading and acting upon the teachings of advanced extraterrestrial intelligences as delivered to them by Englishman George King shortly after he was contacted by an extraterrestrial intelligence known as Aetherius. Join myself and Neil here on Aliens Explored as we discuss the Aetherius Society.
Hello listeners and welcome back to Aliens Explored, your favourite podcast for gazing at the skies and wondering what lies beyond. I'm one of your hosts, Neil Kelly.
And I'm your other host, Stu Jackson. I love that. Your favourite podcast.
Yeah, of course it is.
That's optimistic. I mean, yeah, I'm sure we are for some people. That's lovely. I never thought of it that way.
It's more, all right, don't undermine me.
No,
it's wishful thinking. I admit, yeah, all right, it's wishful thinking, I admit it.
No, I'm not saying it to undermine. I just, literally never thought of it that way. And that's, really, yeah, I think that's brilliant.
Maybe for someone that is true.
Yeah, I've no doubt.
I mean, there'll probably be an awful lot of listeners saying, well, actually, I prefer... If I had to choose between the two or the three, yeah.
And thankfully, nobody has to choose between any because you can listen to all of
You
those.
can. What a wonderful world we live in.
It was an unexpected intro, that one, and I thought that was really nice.
I went a bit off-piste, yeah. I must say.
Yeah. Not that we ever go off-piste on this show.
We don't. We never digress, do we?
No, it doesn't happen. We already have done. Because we haven't even mentioned what we're talking about today. Which is the Aetherius Society.
Is that how it's pronounced? The Aetherius?
Aetherius? I believe so.
Aetherius or
Aetherius
Society.
Aetherius.
Okay, I'm sure our listeners will know what we mean. So the Aetherius Society is a kind of religious movement, isn't it? That was founded in the 1950s, around the time soon after all the Roswell and the term flying saucer was first coined, and people started to think about UFOs or unidentified aerial phenomena.
There's an interesting history to it, and now we talk a lot on this show about your experiences and your history working for the British military. But of course, you also had a stint in London as a taxi driver, did you not?
I did, yes. As an airport limo chauffeur, but basically a glorified cabbie, but still glorified.
So the question is, did you ever receive any messages saying, prepare yourself, you are to be the voice of interplanetary parliament?
While I was working as a cabbie.
Yeah.
No,
okay, because the reason that's what happened to George King. In 1954, he was a London taxi driver. I mean, he wasn't working at the time. He didn't receive this message while driving because presumably that'd be quite
hazard,
dangerous. Yeah. No, he was actually washing his dishes in his Maida Vale home.
And where did this voice come from? Was it just out of the ether, or?
Yes, pretty much. He heard it without hearing it. He felt it as a a firm but gentle pressure on his eardrums.
Okay, that's more than just like suddenly getting an idea, a light bulb moment, you know.
Oh yes, and he was very particular in the way he described it. You know, here was a guy who, even in 1954, he had spent sort of 10 years doing some quite advanced yoga. He was quite an open-minded, spiritually aware person.
And yoga is part of their philosophies or their praxis.
It's one of the things that they incorporate, I suppose, would be the best way. But yes, he recognised, you know, he said himself he was very aware of the difference between sort of flights of fantasy and imagination and actual real things happening. And you got this voice. Prepare yourself. You are to be the voice of interplanetary parliament.
Now, he claimed that these were, he refers to these people as the cosmic masters who contacted him, the extraterrestrial intelligences.
Yeah, these are the sort of what we would traditionally think of as the religious gods and leaders. You know, it's your Jesus, it's your Buddha, it's your, you know, that kind of.
But aren't there thousands and literally thousands of religious sects worldwide that all started because someone heard a voice or someone was told by God or.
Yes, I mean, no, I wouldn't like to start counting, but yeah, I absolutely.
But that's how it happens, isn't it? With religious
you know, I
movements?
mean, look at Moses and the talking bush and the burning bush, rather. But the burning bush talked to him, so
it was the talking snake, but that was Adam and Eve, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Adam and Eve. Now, as that predated the Tower of Babel, what language were they speaking?
Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
Well, who knows?
Well, it's not a question.
Does anyone know?
It's one of the unanswered questions.
Well, as George W. Bush famously said, if English was good enough for our Lord Jesus Christ, it's good enough for me.
But it's one of the great unanswered. A bit like, Adam and Eve, of course, had two sons, Cain and Abel, who went forth and found wives. From where?
From where? From another Adam and Eve who are living over the hill.
Yeah, from Adam and Eve next door.
Well, I had a Jehovah's Witness on my doorstep once, and this was a guy who you could tell his life had gone very badly. You know, he was covered in prison tattoos. I thought this guy could potentially be dangerous. But I said, well, how did that work? You know, they had two sons, so how we descended from them? And he said, oh, well, do you know how long Adam lived to be? And I said, and it was something impossible, 180 years or something like that, and had about 40 odd children and lots of daughters as well. Which are these mentioned in the Bible? I don't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Are they that they went on had so basically it was it? But of course, the people who wrote that didn't know about interbreeding and genetic inconsistencies and. Or maybe that is why we are, that we were created as perfect beings, and then we interbred, and what's left is us.
Could be. Who is to say? I mean, we don't. I mean, we're not being insulting of religions, but we do like to ask questions.
And and so this seems like quite a mild religion, doesn't it? I mean, it's a kind of aggregation of New Age philosophy, UFO religion, yoga, as you say, and they're generally their religious emphases include altruism, community service, nature worship, spiritual healing, and physical exercise. Well, you can't really fault that, can you? You can't say that's
absolutely. And I mean, we did a show some time ago, of course, about Scientology and the alien connection there, and where Scientology has a reputation. We're not saying whether it's deserved or not, but it has a reputation of being aggressive and cult-like and oppressive within it has that reputation. Nothing I can find about the Aetherius Society is bad.
No, it seems to, I say, very relatively conventional, attracts members from mainstream society, according to the page on Wikipedia. The society's membership is relatively small, mainly in the English-speaking world, largest numbers in the UK, US, particularly Southern California, and New Zealand. Yeah,
they got a few thousand people, I think. There's about 700 or 800 in the UK. Yeah, so it's quite a small movement, religion, call it what you will, but it's certainly an interesting one. And one of the things I find most fascinating about it is it's very easy for those of us outside of it to look at it and say, "Oh, it's all a bit silly," and
which you would do for any religion.
Which you would for any religion that came about today.
Even very religious people will look at other people's religions and say, "That's ridiculous."
Yes, well, that happens an awful lot, of course. But the idea that this guy is interpreting messages from these beings on Venus and Saturn, and what have you, given our level of scientific knowledge, it seems improbable at best.
But we did do an earlier show, didn't we, about whether Jesus was an extraterrestrial.
We did.
And how some of the references in the Bible of flying in on a flaming shield, and could that be a UFO? And in this society's teachings, as you say, the various religious figures come from different planet, cosmic masters such as Buddha, Jesus, Lao Tzu, all come to Earth to teach us the correct way of living.
To clarify what I'm saying, that I'm not saying it's unlikely that these beings are extraterrestrial. What I'm saying is it's unlikely that they came from Venus or Saturn specifically. Yeah. Our scientific understanding of our neighbouring planets is such that the chances of life being there and coming from there is really slim. It's more likely to come from another solar system.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, but I think it's only recently that we've really understood what our planets comprise, isn't it? How long have we known that the outer planets in our solar system are just big gas balls? You can't go and land on Jupiter or Saturn. I remember seeing a film called Queen of Outer Space, starring Zsa Zsa Gabor, made in the 1950s, and Venus is the female planet. Inhabited by all these obviously beautiful women, because that's how they made things in the 1950s. But
the Romans have a lot to answer for.
And I could have said maybe at the time scientific knowledge knew that Venus was boiling hot and rained sulfuric acid, and that there's no way anyone anything like a human being could live there. Maybe someone's making a B movie, they just don't care. Yeah, we just like the sound of it.
That's absolutely true. And do you know what? So doing our research about it, I'm actually quite impressed with the Aetherius Society. Kind of looking from the outside in, I'm rather taken by that. I mean, I don't think I'm about to become a convert or anything like that, but I admire them. I got a lot of respect for them. They must get a lot of stick and a lot of ridicule for what they do, but those people that do it stick to their guns, and they do it. They seem to be so. Whenever you look at the interviews and the video footage, they all seem so good-natured about it all.
Are they based anywhere in particular? For instance, in the UK. I mean, I can imagine if they're based in, say, London, they'll have a little place somewhere, and most people will take no notice of them. It'll only be the adherents who would know about it and go there. Whereas if they're in small town up in Suffolk or somewhere, the whole village will know about it and would really take the piss out of them. Maybe firebomb their meeting hall, and you know what they're like out in the sticks.
Having spent most of my life living out on the sticks.
When they're having their meetings, there's an angry mob of peasants with pitchforks and blazing torches outside.
We don't all go around talking like yes, you know.
Get burned as witches.
Burn the witch! No, please don't. I'm not 100%, but I believe they do have a place in London, and I think they've got a fair-sized one over in Devon, which for our American listeners is indeed the rural part of the country.
Yeah, for reference, watch the movie Straw Dogs. See what the West Country's like.
It's not really
the early
like
one starring
that.
Dustin Hoffman, made by Sam Peckinpah. It's a classic.
It's not really like that. Watch The Wicker Man. It's more like that.
Yeah, The Wicker Man. Yes.
Not the remake with the awful.
The legendary Nicolas Cage.
Oh gosh!
No, the
terrible.
original.
Edward Woodward
and
Christopher Lee.
Yeah, but don't watch it if you don't like lots of female nudity.
No. Well, I mean, watch it. It's a great film. Anyway, we've digressed again. So, like I said, they're going to get. Well, they do get ridicule in the sort of mainstream media and publicly. They seem very good-natured about it, and again, kind of drawing a comparison, which is dangerous, I know, but looking at it alongside Scientology, the Aetherius Society are very open about their practices, about what they do, how they do it. They don't seem to sort of keep secrets or anything like that.
Well, critics of Scientology have said, well, yeah, they keep the really weird stuff secret until they've kind of lured you in and got you committed, and then it just gradually gets weirder and weirder, and it's like boiling a frog. You suddenly realise where you've arrived, or you don't realise because you're just anaesthetised all the time.
Yes, I mean I got the reference you were making there, but just in case anybody's wondering what the hell you're talking about with boiling frogs, there is this theory that if you want to boil a frog, you put it in a pan of cold water and gently raise the heat, and the frog won't notice, and it'll just boil to death. It's actually untrue, that.
Is it?
No. A frog will jump out when the water gets too hot.
Okay.
Don't ask me how they know that, because I can't think of a nice way that they find out. But no, I have it on good authority that it's not true. But that's the principle you were talking about, and it does apply with a lot of human nature.
Another sacred cow goes to the slaughter. I mean, do they even refer to themselves as a religion? Because they seem to just incorporate a few religious ideas and general healthy practices. I mean, it just seems like a nice club to belong to.
Well, their big banner, if you like, their tagline for the Aetherius Society is cooperating with the gods from space. Okay.
That does imply a religious aspect to it. Cooperating, not obeying, not blindly obeying not obeying our cosmic masters.
Yes, I mean they are the Aetherius Society, so maybe they're a society rather than a religion. Thinking about it,
do any other religions call themselves a society? The Quakers
they do have. I think they have a bishop. Is it an ordained bishop? Yeah, no, they're definitely a religion. Definitely a religion. Now, one of their main practices, I absolutely love this, is the storing in physical batteries of spiritual prayer energy. Have you come across this in the?
No, I haven't. No.
They get together in their congregation and they pray and chant, and there's a lot of the sort of the sonic rhythmic vibrations that you get. A bit like when like Om is the sound of creation. It's that kind of level stuff. But they
Om
pray.
as opposed to as I just said.
Yeah. Well, you said Om, I should have said what? One for the electricians in the listening in there. So I mean, but please stick with us. Don't resist.
No, resistance is futile. We can't have ohms.
Right, yeah. Stop that there with the puns. So they do this prayer and generate this prayer energy, and it's channeled into these physical batteries that are then stored, and they release it to help with all sorts of things, global disasters, when there's peace talks going on. They firmly believe that they have averted nuclear war on this planet through this method.
Okay.
Relief from global, when there's a tsunami and things like that. So open these batteries up to put this prayer energy out into the world and make it a better place.
So what do these batteries look like? Are they just like plastic tubs, or what are they? They'll be in the room with the tub open doing their Om, and then suddenly someone will just run and slam the lids on the tubs. Okay, I think we've got enough.
Not far off. I've only seen a picture of one from the outside, so I don't know what they are inside. But they're large, box-shaped. They stand on tripods. When I say large, I suppose they're maybe 2 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot. As a cube, one end of which is open with a lid, I suppose, and that's the bit that faces the people praying, and it goes into this. And yes, there is in fact a cover that goes over the top of that once it's been filled. But I don't know what's inside. I'm saying it's open. I know that's the end. I've not seen what is it actually looks like on the end. Just I've only seen it from the side.
It's not like bottling a fart, or
not a million miles away. But because it sits on these tripods, and they'll just take one off and
open it and release the.
Yeah, when it's time. So very altruistic, very open.
So, all right. So if you've got a congregation of, say, I don't know, you've got 30 people there, and they can all do this Om, 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 and they can store it up. So is that like when there's a big crisis, they want to avert it, they can all get together and do the Om, and then release all the previous Oms that they've done as well?
Yes. That's exactly
so basically, it. It's like you can double your congregation by saying we've got this stuff stored.
Yeah, I guess so. And I do know they open the batteries at specific points in time to, just to make the world a better place when it's needed. I think that's lovely. I think that's absolutely charming.
Do you think there are, like a lot of religions, certainly like Church of England, there are lots of people who kind of just go along with it and don't really believe. But for instance, if you live in a small village, you might go to church on Sunday because everyone else does, and it's part of the community, and you don't necessarily believe in it all, but you'll be ostracised if you don't.
I know the type of thing you're talking about very much there,
and people go along just for the social aspect of it, or like people will join the Church of Satan just to annoy their parents.
Yeah. No, I honestly don't think it's that, because you're not going to get, entire villages of people who are part of the Aetherius Society. So you're not going to get that enclosed environment in the first place. It makes me laugh when you get, entire towns who are all deeply, deeply Christian, and you say, yeah, but if you were born in a Muslim country, you'd be a Muslim. No, I wouldn't. Yeah, really.
But I mean, we don't really get that much in Britain because we're not very religious. We're certainly a lot less religious than, say, America, where I think you do have towns that have been founded by religions, and everyone goes to the church, and we
have a weird thing in this country where the common everyday normal people in the street, we're not we're not religious, but we have a monarchy, which is, currently it's a queen ordained by God.
Yes.
We have, these politicians who are all, kind of an extension of this. They all claim to be these deep, Christian, spiritual people, and then they go out doing despicable things, but that's a whole other thing. They certainly don't live by Christian values, but you do have a massive separation now. Allegedly we're supposed to have a separation between state and church here.
Are we?
But
I thought America. I know America did, but our head of state is the head of the Church of England. We're specifically they're specifically linked, aren't they? I mean, Britain. I mean, we have bishops in the House of Lords who will vote on legislation. The only other country in the world that has religious clerics as part of its government is Iran.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe it's America. I'm thinking of them.
But actually, the average person in the street isn't very religious. Even the ones who go to church, you don't often. I mean, it's quite unsettling sometimes if you're talking to an American and they'll suddenly say, "Well, I was praying with my family and Jesus told me to do." Well, this is weird. In America, it's not so weird, but in Europe, it really is regarded as weird. I've lived in Holland a lot, and Holland does have a Bible Belt, and they have a very strict form of Protestantism, and there used to be whole towns where they would be dressing in 19th century gear. If you tried to drive through the town on a Sunday and they're walking to church, they're just all sort of walking up the road in a crowd, they won't get out of your way. They'll turn around and glare at you. They're not allowed televisions and things, or they certainly weren't. I think things have been relaxed in recent years, but yeah, I've known people who grew up without television. They'd never been into a cinema. They didn't even know what it was. Wow. In Holland, which you regard, it was a very sort of liberal, progressive country, but you've got this very, very strict religious Bible Belt. They actually call it the Bible Belt, and I've lived in the Bible Belt. Yeah, in Holland.
Fascinating. So it is probably America I'm thinking of that has the separation of church and state. But America, don't they pledge allegiance every morning to the flag and talk about one nation under God? And I think America. Their money has "In God We Trust."
Yeah, "In God We Trust," and I mean I know it's without getting into American politics, there are always. It's this separation of church and state thing because it's in their constitution, but it's always being challenged. There are always, I suppose, mainly Republicans. It's mainly the religious right who want to introduce compulsory prayer in schools or compulsory prayer in government, and they definitely want to remove this separation between. I mean, they would become a theocracy if they had their way.
Well, by having a statement about God on their currency, they have compulsory prayer. That is compulsory prayer.
Yeah,
that's not giving anyone the opportunity to remove themselves from their religion.
Well, I suppose
it's a complete and utter myth. Then, what we're saying.
Yeah, but they know they have a culture, an American culture, which is to worship money. So let's God on our money. So when people are worshipping the money, at least God gets a look in.
But maybe they should have a picture of a golden cow.
We're talking about the Aetherius. They're also not the only religious group to be inspired by unidentified aerial phenomena. And another society I'm thinking of that came into the news. Actually, it was I'd forgotten how long ago it was. Do you remember the Heaven's Gate cult
Yes.
in San Diego, California.
Yes.
And 1997 it was that they
recent as that.
when Halley's comet appeared in the sky. That was their signal. Yeah, we're off to go and start a new life. We're going to leave planet Earth. We're going to, as they call it, graduation from the human evolutionary level. We are happily prepared to leave this world and go with Ty's crew. And yeah, the county sheriffs found 39 dead bodies in this house in San Diego, including
Not that
that of
we're
its.
drawing parallels between them and the Aetherius Society.
No, I'm just saying it's where the Aetherius Society is a fairly sort of moderate mainstream. You can imagine your bank manager being a part of it. Heaven's Gate was definitely the kind of thing which draws in young people and separates them from their previous life. Yes. It causes them to lose their friends and to sever ties with their families and
And that's an evil, dangerous cult that does
and that's
that
an evil,
sort
dangerous
of thing.
cult, yeah, and ultimately gets them to commit suicide. I remember reading at the time when they examined the bodies, they pretty much most of the men had been castrated.
Wow.
Long since. Yeah, it was all part of.
Not good. But you know what? It's time for our summary on the Aetherius Society. So I'll start by asking, had you ever heard of the Aetherius Society prior to this episode?
I don't think I had, no.
Right. I mean, I had. They've come up time and time again, and I think they come up quite frequently in ufology. So, of course, because I'd heard of them multiple times, it's one of those things I automatically assume everyone's heard of them,
Right, no, I haven't. I mean, yeah.
So I see them as quite famous in that regard.
It sounds like something out of an episode of The Avengers.
That's the original Avengers, not the Marvel.
Not Marvel's Adventures. I mean, John Steed and Emma Peel.
Yes.
If any of our listeners are old enough to remember them.
I'm sure some will be. Most of our listeners are our sort of age group. Well, my age group, Neil.
Oh, right. So, and you've heard of John Steed and Emma Peel?
Yeah, of course I have. I grew up with them, but yeah. So yeah. I mean, I'm going to, I suppose, ask you, do you think there's anything in what they claim?
What they can actually bottle their prayers and release them. No, I don't think sound waves work like that. I know that
buying into it.
No, but if that's what they believe. But I mean, I suppose we can open up a whole new topic now, which probably isn't the time to do it. But I certainly believe that with our thoughts we can affect the world around us more than we realise.
Oh, absolutely.
What you attract to yourself, what you repel from yourself, is often an unconscious thing. It's your thoughts that do that. You can change your way of thinking. You can learn to think in different ways and have a different life as a result.
Well, I've theorised for a long time now, probably a good couple of decades since I originally came up with this theory or this idea. That there are many different types of energy around us. There are I suppose you would call them spiritual energy, but there are some that affect our emotions, some that affect our physical health. All sorts of different energies flying about, and that we can subconsciously manipulate those energies. And when we get into things like crystal healing and candle magic and that sort of thing, what we're doing, we're just finding a way of focusing our subconscious minds to manipulate those energies. So it's not the actual crystal doing the healing, it's us, but the crystal is a way of us sort of controlling that, if that makes sense. So why wouldn't prayer be any different to that as a way of putting ourselves in that mental state?
So I suppose I can change my mind and say, it probably does do something, but not the way they think.
Yeah, who knows?
Positive thought, positive energy, isn't it? It can't hurt, and it can possibly, but certainly negative energy, negative thoughts. You need to get rid of them.
Yeah. Well, they have. I mean, any psychologist or therapist in particular would say there's no such thing as a negative thought. Just one that doesn't serve a purpose anymore. But no, I can get on board with the idea that they are doing something, and it's the whole, you keep doing a thing because you're seeing results from it. I struggle a bit with the whole, some of these masters are from Venus and Saturn. If they said from other planets, I'd probably be a bit more open to it.
Other dimensions, I'd be open to, but specifically Venus and Saturn. Maybe they just need updating a bit.
The trouble is, that's what they have specifically been told by these masters through George King. So there's that. I'm going to mention one thing about. We've gone on quite a bit longer than normal, but I'm going to mention one thing about. He is referenced as Dr. George King an awful lot. I am utterly unable to find out what his doctorate is in.
As I understand it, anyone is allowed to call themselves doctor. The only thing that's actually against the law is to claim that you're a medical doctor when you're not.
Really?
Anyone could just call themselves doctor this or doctor that.
Okay, that's an interesting one. I'll have to look into that.
You're opening yourself up for ridicule when people find that you don't actually have any kind of PhD
it's only on the Aetherius Society website, and it's supporters that refer to him as Dr. George King. In the mainstream, it's just George King. But you know what? It'd be really nice if we have any listeners out there who are members of the Aetherius Society. Do get in touch, because we'd love to hear from you directly, and we'd love to interview you for the show as well.
That would be amazing.
That would be really, really good. So do get in touch. And the same for all our listeners. Get in touch with your own stories. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what experiences you've had. We want to hear if you think it's all a load of nonsense. And why you think that. We want to hear. You can get in touch via the usual means, Facebook and Twitter, by searching Aliens Explored, or of course on our website aliensexplored.com. And don't forget to leave us that cheeky review wherever you listen to your podcast. It really does help. But Neil, we've got an interesting one. We've got a current events one next time.
Oh,
we're going to be talking about COVID, not the COVID bill release of information. That's coming in a few weeks' time.
That's a different COVID conversation.
That's going to be episode 50. But we are going to be talking about whether or not COVID comes from space.
Oh, is this? Are we under an alien attack?
Are we indeed? That's what we'll be debating next time. So stay tuned for that one, listeners. I say stay tuned. Don't stay tuned all week.
Tune in again.
You're going to get bored.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't tune in anymore, do you? Why do we say tune in these days?
I just like the sound of it.
It does sound good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. So same bat time. Same
bat channel.
Anyway, in the meantime, keep listening out for those psychic instructions and keep watching the skies. Take care from me.
Catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Aliens Explored is a Fecal Films production in association with Juicy Falls. Music by Darren Mafucci and editing by Stu Jackson. Find us on Twitter or Facebook by searching Aliens Explored, or visit us on aliensexplored.com.